Welcome to HANA Café, the Netherlands. In English this time because we have some international guests at the table in our small cafe. Integration is hot, is key. Without integration, you only have loose components. Imagine a server rack like we have here in our studio, and all the components have a right job to do and to fulfill. They do their job perfectly. But it would be even better if you have an end-to-end scenario where all those components work together. That means that they need to be integrated, and that's how we can deliver very nice content in our studio. But not only in the studio, it's also like if you have an SAP application landscape with SAP applications or even non-SAP applications. They all do their job perfectly individually. But you get the most value if you have an integration between all those applications. So today's talk in HANA Café in the Netherlands is about integration. Welcome to HANA Café, the Netherlands.
HANA Café Nederland is een podcast met nieuws vanuit de SAP-wereld. In het café spreken de gasten en stamgasten over ontwikkelingen, innovaties, events of praten ze gewoon weer eventjes bij. Laten we snel naar binnen gaan.
In HANA Café we have Rojo Consultancy at the table. And John, Swati, thank you very much for joining. Maybe Swati, can you introduce yourself to the audience of HANA Café?
Yeah, sure. My name is Swati. I'm an enterprise integration architect with close to 10 years of experience in the area of integrating applications. Like you said, components sitting individually do not add much value unless we can all bring them together and make that data transfer seamlessly. So that has been my major area of focus, working with SAP technologies. When in the beginning it was also XI and then moving on towards PIPO, cloud integration, and now doing more than that with SAP and non-SAP middlewares as well.
If you talk about XI, then seasoned, experienced consultant. Maybe you could even mention the business connector, but not sure if you have experience in that one as well. But that was even before XI.
John. Probably John here can do that.
John, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you first of all for having us. My name is John Bilay. Today I'm playing a role of CTO for Rojo Consultancy. I have a background in integration, of course. I'm now working in this domain for about 22 years, talking about integration. I've done it, I've seen it in all sizes and colors. Done a lot of SAP. I've been deeply involved in the community in general, in the blogs, in education for SAP, but also in writing books around the domain of integration. So I've wrote the books about process orchestration and now cloud integration, now with some colleagues in SAP in Waldorf. So been around for a very long time, feels like old furniture sometimes. And I'm a very close colleague of Swati here, where we have a lot of fun working together.
And you work with the business connector?
Yes. And let's say on one side, I'm happy that we where we are today. Exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right. Okay. Thanks for welcome. Yeah. Welcome to both of you. Welcome Jan, stamgast in het café.
Thanks. Much worse DNA. I hear that that our two table guests are actually SAP dinosaurs as well, but without the gray hair. So besides...
How is that possible?
Yeah, besides being CTO of a very innovative company, they also seem to have some secret down there. Maybe some fountain of youth in your restaurants or something?
No, well, like kind of my, No, but talking about it, integration is, for me at least, and for a lot of us, it's not just the work we do. We're really passionate about the topic. Why integration is very, you never get bored of it because you're always integrating A and B and A and C. You really never know what you get in different industries. From that perspective, I guess it does all make you old, very young, because you're still playing that same game, but only more sophisticated in some ways, right?
Yeah. So I remember my first job as a consultant. I think it was somewhere around 1840 or something, really a long time ago. And they said, we have two systems and they need to collaborate. And that was the time that SAP thought, okay, you have a box with SAP and that's all you need. But that's how it was 25 years ago. You have SAP and everything you need is in the box. But that customer wanted to have integration with another system. And the only thing I could do at that point in time is to I'm almost ashamed to mention, but I created a download of a file with the data, and then I had to create the upload on the other side, and that was the interface. And I think those kind of file uploads and downloads and uploads is still was used a lot of around that time of the SAP life. But still, if you look a few years ago, also with the acquisition of SuccessFactors, the initial interfaces were handling files. And I think, Jan, maybe you can always tell nice about the SAP history, and especially if it comes to Christian Klein, because you follow Christian Klein, of course. But what was the first thing that Christian Klein did when he moved up as position in the board area?
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, I wasn't there during the Spanish Inquisition. I have not been in the field of integrating doubloons or VOC, but I do know a nice story about Christian Klein and how he did very good things for the company, I think. And this might be the reason that he became CEO as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think it was 2019 when he went on stage with his major headache. And at that time, he wasn't CEO of the company yet. He was COO of the company. And you might know that SAP is using a lot of SAP software as well. Obviously, right? We're not getting competitors' software on board. But he went on stage, and that was quite bold, I think. That's the organizing committee of Sapphire actually allowed him to do that. And he went there to complain about SAP software, about things like that there was no means of single sign-on, that there was no means of UX harmonization, that there was no means to do end-to-end analytics, because analytics were possible to do it on one single application in the process, but not on the entire process. He was complaining about the fact that the employees that he had in SuccessFactors that never reached the ECC system that we were using at that time. And then I guess he went into a board meeting and well, you know how it goes in meetings where you complain about something, you leave the room, and then you're the owner of that particular problem, right? Yeah. So that's probably what happened to him as well. So he went on the stage, he complained about it, and he got traction, and suddenly quite a new set of services, of technologies started to come to life. And I think this is the foundation of the business technology platform as we know it nowadays, where we do all kinds of integrations, not only in the area of bringing data from one system to another, or API management, or events or something, but also in the area of analytics and single sign-on and UX and that sorts of integration topics. I think this got quite some traction, and you nowadays see that. The business technology platform is actually a very important fundament of the line of business applications. So much that you see that services that are running on the business technology platform are made services that are of crucial use of, for instance, our CX portfolio or S4 in the cloud, but also from an integration point of view. And I think nowadays we go to the level where we integrate our software quite nicely. But nowadays we even see there's an opportunity to innovate based on it. I mean, the fact that we have, I saw your eyebrow going up. So
really,
yeah. So no, the fact of the matter is that you can just connect application A to application B and to C and stuff. But once you put a layer of APIs over your applications, it also gives you a possibility to pass that layer of APIs to, for instance, third-party developers or developers in your company to do really funky things with, because they suddenly have access to all that data, right? And that opens up a new can of, not worms,
possibilities.
A new can of opportunities to run innovations based on those integrations. So it's not only a matter of bringing data from one system to the other, but also a possibility to basically boost your business, to boost your innovations inside the company.
Integration is the backbone of an intelligent enterprise. Right?
Well said.
Yeah, but I only copied it from our executives, right? But it is really true, and we come also from the field, doing implementation at customers. You are in the field, so what is the biggest pain now for customers? Maybe John, maybe you can.
I think to answer it, but let me also go back in time a little bit in that history. I think we've got time to go through back in time. So actually, the company was founded based on integration. That's all we do. We do nothing else
Your
but
company,
integration.
you mean?
Yeah, the company. Yeah, our company.
You
Rojo
try
Consultancy.
again do
Yeah.
Rojo Consulting.
Rojo Consultancy.
But because
yeah.
it's Spanish.
Consultancy, yes. So Rojo
Yeah.
Consultancy was founded on the base of integration. That's all we do. But in time, you talked about the monolithic application back then. You have one big machine doing everything. And I like to draw the analogy with the music that we were listening at that time. Well, I don't know. It could be ABBA, or I don't know at that time what it was. And
Okay,
the
you were
evolution
really
went
way back. Yeah.
exactly. And you have this evolution, and then it start breaking. And now today, actually, we used to be in best of breed in the past. We moved to monolithics, and now we're back again. We're back in style, where people are going for the best application for the best things. At least that's what we see with our customers. So what they're doing is, you now have a distributed enterprise from the different platforms that you're using. Some of them are even in the cloud, some of them are on premise. So there's a lot of mixture that you get. But the control has also changed. IT was in control before. Today, the business is also a lot more in control. They can decide, go out there, buy, I don't know, ServiceNow and say, that's what we want for our services. IT, deal with it. And by the way, it needs to work with my SAP system. And this IT thinks, now I have to learn ServiceNow and how to integrate it with SAP. It's not just integrating messages, but it's the processes that you're integrating. Because for the business, at the end, they have a business process, which now runs and across multiple applications. You need to make that happen. Therefore, this integration is so critical. Without it, you're not achieving the end-to-end need of the business. We like sometimes to say, if you consider the body, the human body, as being your IT system, and you'll have the blood which goes through it being your data, then integration is truly the veins which brings this data. Nobody sees it, so you see the heads, which are the system, or your legs. And sometimes you see the blood if you cut yourself, at least. Most people don't even know that the data is flowing through those through those systems or body parts.
You have
But these veins...
You have a security leak.
Exactly, as well, when you have security leak, indeed.
Yeah.
But those veins play a critical role, and most of the time you notice it only when they don't work. And sometimes you start a project without knowing that you need to make them work together. So the need has really grown. It's explosive. We see it in our business daily, actually. So from that perspective, it's the right spot to be, at least for us, right? Yeah. So it expresses the need for integration, at least. We could talk more about it, but it's not just integration of data, it's at multiple layers now. It's at the process layer as well, which is difficult. So there's a lot of discussions because those systems don't always work in the same way. They don't implement the processes in the same way. So a lot of time is spent in, let's say, gluing those systems together.
And does it also mean that you're now, given the fact that those business units or those divisions or lines of businesses, more autonomous in their purchases and stuff. Does it also mean that you're working with those businesses more than you used to do before? Previously, integration was typically the domain of IT, right?
Right, exactly. Right. That's changing. It's exactly why I'm bringing it out. It means that the needs are also changing. And as we evolve in our discussion, we'll bring up the indirect need. Indeed, now it's talking with business. And these business are not interested to know about the nitty-gritty of how data moves. They just know, I know, while you're running this, you need to look up this data. Oh, where is that data in SAP? It's an integration happening here. And we've seen a lot where they even bypass their own IT organization. It's happening much more because, because you need that flexibility, right?
The secret integration via an Excel sheet on someone's computer on a desk somewhere.
Yeah. And the consequences are huge. You're saying it's a business. Another consequence is the so-called citizen integrators, meaning that it's not just a big project before where you're integrating two systems, but you might have a salesperson who says, I need to run these lookups in my Excel so that I can know then which customer I have to talk to. But this data is in SAP and that one is in Salesforce. And I need to run these things myself. Oh my goodness, it's integration. But go ask IT. They don't have time for you because you're one person who's doing a very important job for your organization. But to achieve it, you need an integration for one person. Good luck with trying to get someone to integrate that with you. So therefore, you also need modern integration tools a la rapid development, where you can click and drag things yourself as a single person to bring this stuff together and have alert and do your job.
That sounds almost too great to hear. So is that already possible?
It is. But of course, as usual, with some question marks and quotes there. But that's where the industry is evolving to, for multiple reasons. So, I mean, let's talk about what we call the target audience of integration today is no longer just the integration specialists. Citizen integrators are playing. You even have ad hoc integrator, they call them. You have citizen integrator, they play a super important role. I mean, maybe Swati, you want to say something about those citizen integrator? We have a lot of customers who are dealing with them as a way to cope with the demand even of integration.
Yeah, because of these many applications coming into your organization and you have to bring them together, time is of course of the essence. You cannot no longer run projects of a year to do integration between two applications, right? You need to be able to do it quickly and efficiently and easily. And to be able to do that, a lot of organizations are also training the business analysts, we would say people who are aware about the processes, in these tools where they can use drag and drop to put things together and make integration simple specifically for them. And how the integration specialists help in these situations is by setting a framework for it. So, for example, for a lot of our customers, what we do is we go in there and we define a set of rules and regulations and how you should do integrations. We create patterns, for example, saying, hey, if you need to do file-based integration, use this specific pattern
template almost,
and kind of build it already for you. And what you have to do is copy this part from here and that part from there, put them together, configure them. So then you can easily read file from one place and write that to another or do modifications on it. And that's the role now the specialists play to enable the organization to do integration quicker,
So is it then, are you using the tools that are available, or did you create your own tools to support your customer?
It's a combination. So a lot of times you use the tools which are available, but sometimes for rapid integration with these third-party SaaS applications, for example, we create something that we call connectors or adapters, which would encapsulate this entire technical detail behind a nice UI. So for example, if you need to connect with Salesforce and you want to get all the accounts
which are there. Stop talking about Salesforce.
Carry on talking about Salesforce.
Just giving a third-party application example here.
No worries. Yeah.
And in any of those applications, for example, if you need to do a specific operation, to be able to do it technically, me as an integration developer, what I would do is go read their API specifications and read how can I do a REST GET on it or a POST on it, or what do I have to do. But a business or citizen integrator, business analyst or citizen integrator has that amount of time or maybe that amount of expertise, right? But what they would be easily able to do is if they have a nice UI and you can say, oh, I need to do a GET. So I select from the drop down a GET. And then I say, oh, which business object do I want? I want to get all the accounts. So from a drop down, I select account. And in the background, the entire technicality on how this API works is constructed, is completely encapsulated. So you're not necessarily aware about what's going on in the background, but you do these two steps and you create a quick iFlow and you run it, and there you have all your accounts. If you would have to do it manually, forget about it with all those documentations that you would have to read and figure all of that out.
But manually is the situation that we had with Business Connector, XI,
Exactly.
PI, and that's what we did as integration consultants before.
Exactly. And that was our motto with Rojo Innovation as well. Innovation is an arm of Rojo Consultancy where we build these products or these connectors to make life of citizen integrators or fellow integration developers, easy.
Yeah.
We use it for ourselves as well. So it's our innovation arm, like Swati says, and then there we build accelerators in general. So in fact, you can think about it as us cannibalizing our own work, because basically we go out there. Normally, if you do consultancy, you're charging hours, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not about charging hours. If the things you are doing are boring, I mean, nobody is happy to do the same thing every day. Why not automate it in some way? So you bring your own tool to do your work faster. And then, hey, citizen integrator or the customer can use it as well, right? But that's step one. We must do this. We don't have another choice. And the reason being that if I have S4 Cloud here, or let's say SuccessFactors this side, and I have ServiceNow, customer having these two systems together probably need the same stuff between the two.
Yeah.
Right? And these stuff don't change. So why don't we, beside the fact that we have a ServiceNow connector, why don't we build an integration flow which synchronizes SuccessFactors user to ServiceNow? Because there's high chance that if you're an employee here, you want access to ServiceNow to create ticket for whatever needs you have in your organization. Pre-build the integration already. You can imagine if you pre-build that interface, you're basically covering, I will say, close to 90% of people need, because these are cloud systems in essence. Okay, they might add one or two fields here, but that's something they can change. At least they don't have to figure out the rest.
There's also cloud integration comes with all those kind of adapters, right?
Yeah, that's the point, right? So
you created your own adapter.
SAP did that before, and we've built, well, let me rephrase that. We collected 2,100 ready-made integration flows so that we can put them into work whenever a customer wants to connect, for instance, SuccessFactors to S4.
Yes.
And I'm rephrasing that line because I think SAP didn't build them all. It's probably a public secret that Rojo has also been contributing to that.
No, it's not a secret. It's public. In fact,
I think it's something to be proud of, right?
Yes, I mean, we just came from another
really
meeting.
Underexposed. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So we are an OEM partner to SAP. So some of our connectors are basically under the cloud integration hood. It's no secret. It's there, and we have a very close collaboration for that. So Swati gave an example of the name that you did not want us to use is one of them.
So you created the Salesforce connector.
The Salesforce,
did,
Microsoft Dynamics, ServiceNow, Sugar CRM, and we have many more in the pipeline that we're creating. But also the content, the integration content you're talking around it, we also contributing to it. So if you will go download it there, you'll see right away that we've been involved in it. So that's one cooperation that we're doing with SAP, a lot more things we're doing, but it's not the only company we're doing things with. We're doing it with other companies as well. The goal is all to accelerate.
Really?
Salesforce.
No, but you know, the nice thing you mentioned, Swati, is the fact that you were talking about these citizen development tools, right? And you were talking about your innovation part of the house that's building all these tools. But eventually you said, then we generate an iFlow, and then all right, so it's based on SAP technology again. So it is the integration suite that you're talking about, right?
Exactly. It's the cloud integration offering of integration suite that I was talking about. That's where we have the adapters available from us. That's where we also have the prepackaged content. And we did start doing it keeping in mind that the partner ecosystem should be enriched, and our partner SAP should be one of the best connected iPasses around, right?
Yeah.
So we should be able to provide these solutions where people can just use an adapter out of the box to connect to any application out there, making their life easier, making the deployments and developments faster for them.
Well, SAP has put a significant amount of investment in turning the integration suite into something that can be used by citizen developers as well. So what do you think? Is it ready for citizen developer? Honest answer.
It's getting there.
Today, no. For me personally, I think we're not there. We have a long way if we compare it to other competitor tools out there. We still have a long way to go, but we're in the right way. The right attention is being put to it. We have to do this because otherwise there's not enough integration people to help all the customer need around.
So
that's a fact.
Primarily it speeds up the integration project.
Yes, and if you reuse a piece of existing bundle accelerator, it reduces your testing time. Of course, it reduces your time to market and all the other things that it brings. And why not? That's what we owe to our customers.
I also think that a customer representative or business representative is not looking to do it himself, but is looking to have this enabled faster than before.
For sure.
And if you then have the tools as an
Yes.
integration consultant, then you can support him faster so that he can fulfill his business needs on
Exactly.
It's exactly the point of last podcast, by the way.
Yeah, but it's a
that
low code.
lazy developers are using the low-code technology to build their applications faster, so they can build their applications with their feet on the table.
That's
the
pretty
same.
much it.
Same.
That's our approach.
The same applies to integration consultants.
That's exactly what we try to enable. But let me just clarify. So we have few business units in our organization. We have the consultancy, which does traditional consultancy. We have innovation, and we have managed services, so support. But with our consultancy, we see the trends in the market, right? Where integration is needed. We see how painful it is to integrate some things, and then we think, oh, well, we could accelerate it for ourselves, right? So that's how innovation comes into play to do that. And then we use our own tool on our integration side, but even traditional consultancy today is challenged because of the multi-skilled consultant that you need out there in the project. Because it's not just someone who just knows ECC anymore. It's like there's no functional person on the other side. You also have, because the tools on the other side, these SaaS applications are also more intuitive than before, right? I mean, I don't need a whole full-on, you know what I mean? It's obvious what we need to do there. But it's also to accelerate that part of the delivery because the customer expects it to be done much faster, because the cost of some of those SaaS applications have dropped dramatically. So there's no point to have a consultancy project.
Yeah, is that true, Swati? I mean, when you're in the domain of integration with SAP, you need to know acronyms like VBAC and VBELM and that sort of things.
Yeah, all about
so
all
you
the
need-
IDOCs and everything.
Yeah, you need the domain expertise of SAP. So, like yourself, you built this connection between Salesforce and S4,
S4.
I presume.
Yeah.
It doesn't only require you to know the domain specifics of SAP, but it also requires you to know the domain specifics of Salesforce.
Exactly, it does. And that's why when we start building these components under innovation, we do have to tap a lot into our expertise in running those projects before. So if you do a Salesforce integration project before, you kind of already understand all about their APIs. We do need to have colleagues who are experienced in integrating with Salesforce at the business side of story, and how it is used and what means what. And then you take all of this knowledge from both the sides and you make this content which would help you do exactly the same thing. So that is one of the challenges that we as an organization faced to take this out. But you can imagine if we did the same, now all these organizations who need to do that integration would exactly face the same challenge and would lose a lot of time in gaining those expertise on both the sides. And that's what we are trying to solve here. So if you already have a pre-packaged, pre-built content giving you all that information out of the box, you don't need to figure that out anymore,
It's not just the connectivity, it's the mapping between
Mappings,
this
yeah.
IDOC and that SAP, that Salesforce structure. It's also the process flow to say one call here needs 3 calls on the other side because the objects are not organized in
Let's
the
see
same
if the
way.
cost center exists. Let's see if the employee exists. That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And by the way, when there's a problem, I don't want an email to be sent.
Yeah.
I actually want a ticket to be created in service now. It's that way.
One of the important jobs as an integration consultant is still being a translator between system A and system B. But if you deliver that pre-packaged, then the translation is done really fast. Is it something that did you measure that? So if you compare, for example, integration projects 10 or 15 years ago and you compare them to current integration projects, is there any figure that you can mention? So we are 10% faster, 20%, 50% faster than before. Is that possible?
You mean the difference between developing in Integration Suite compared to Business Connector?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Let's use PI.
the platform itself is difficult maybe to say, but I will say personally, so it's still tough, even more complex to say because of the diversity of many things. It's not just system, but it's also where they're located, on premise, and sometimes it's located in a region, like say in China, where data cannot just come out. You need, you need localized engine per region. It gets really complex. But what I could say is that if you have pre-built content that you use for that scenario, our experience shows that you reduce the effort by 70%, which is
70%.
quite something.
That is-
But to be specific, it means if I say synchronize business partner to account, then if you have it already, it's only a question of configuring your connection here and the rest works. And if you say, okay, the vanilla run works at least, but if you say, hey, I added a custom field, then you need to add it. So these contents also give you room, call it exits, to add your customized fields,
But also gives you a design ready out of the box, right? So now if you need to do something similar, you already have a pattern for you. So earlier you would have to sit and go on a whiteboard or on your copy, make a design of how you're going to design this flow. Where are you going to do splitting and how you're going to map and move data. But now you have this out of the box. So apart from business partner, if you now need another object, the whole logic stays the same. You make a copy of it, change certain things, and that gives you already a playbook to play with. And that reduces your time again.
So beside the playbook, we could also add the fact that is the integration approach. I'm going to give you an example. So imagine I'm synchronizing S4HANA and let me use service now. I can decide non-SAP. There's approaches to be used, right? You can say I have a scheduled job which runs every hour and queries, as sort to say, hey, has there been any change in the last hour? Yes, and then pull it. But isn't it great that if you know it already, that, hey, I can have it event-based to have it near real time. If something changes, it triggers about. Most people will still think in that old way of doing it because of what they used to before. But to say you can use event-based now because this is possible, one, it's faster for you to achieve it. It's actually easier to integrate that way because there are frameworks that are already available on SAP and on this side. That also helps you indirectly.
Yeah, this talking about trends in integration, right? So the event-based mechanisms are playing a more almost dominant role, I would say.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it something that you see turning as well? Like previously we were talking about iDocs, right? And as soon as you create an order, an iDoc is being created in real time, but also an event is created in real time. So which hook do you use to link your integration flow on?
Is it okay, Swati, that I go?
Yeah, sure.
So when it comes to S4, for instance, it depends, of course, on the backend. If it's S4, we try always to use event-based as much as possible. So if we have to go from SAP to outside, of course, we try to use those DRF, which are around out there, which you can configure and then taken care of for you. And on the other way around, if we have to push data to SAP, for instance, we try to use, of course, the OData because today that's available. There's many more and more, and we are responsible from requesting a lot of those because we need it in our templates that we're creating, and it's just much easier that way. You talked about API. Well, that's API economy is a buzzword which is now dying, but anyway. It is playing a good role because if I understand that, then it does not matter what system really lies between it, right? So that's what we use primarily. But let's be honest, there are areas where you still have to use iDocs because it's just,
Or files.
or files in that way.
No.
But surprisingly,
It's also, so the question I just asked is also a little bit, I think a little bit mean, not a trick question, but a mean question. Because if you look at integration 15 years ago, it was again, you have the SAP system and you have maybe one or two systems next to it. But if you look at current landscapes, they are way more diverse, way more. So it's getting more complex. So if you can accelerate, then that will be very helpful.
I say it's more complex. We do more than before, that for sure, in the same time, because the tools are also more equipped to do it. I mean, look, it's a difference between PI and cloud integration. Of course, in some areas, you're still catching up, but in a lot of areas, I mean, look where we are in the quadrant today, in a quadrant like Gartner. It tells you something compared to what we had on premise.
What does it tell us?
That we're moving in the right direction because I mean we're in the as SAP we're in the top quadrant, right? That's quite something, and we went pretty fast. And I will say I think it's also this open approach now that some partner like ourselves are now contributing. It does help because you cannot lift that. I mean, how many SaaS applications there are out there? I mean, I know one competition who has almost 500 connectors. Just think about that, 500. And the point is, it's no longer about technical connectors, it's about business connectors. So if I'm connecting to Exact Online, today the customer wants to see an Exact Online connector. Why? Because he does not have to think about it. Then he sees the terminologies that he knows from Exact Online. That's what they're talking about. So there's so much room for it. There's localized room of products which are just made for our region here to satisfy the need of these customers. That's where it's going.
So a number of those ready-made integration flow content made it to the API Business Hub.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a lot more applications than just Salesforce.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Exact, you mentioned Microsoft, and all those other companies as well.
Yeah.
Where did they go? Did you publish them in the partner store, or?
Yeah, we have
Keep in your secret compartments.
Well, it's a combination because you see it's complex. Let's say you have the API hub and you have SAP store, right? Mm-hmm. So when something makes it in API hub, then it means it's something that we collaborated with SAP generally. Yep. That's where we go. But other than that, it's in SAP store, for instance. And some is just in our own in-house that we use for our customers, right? But it's not just the application. Unfortunately, today it can even be the tax office. So we're doing a lot of projects in Spain, for instance, where everybody's got this requirement, of reporting their VAT electronically. That's integration right there. Basically, we need a package to integrate S4 to the tax office, ECC to the tax office, S4, online, and also Exact Online with the tax office. Just imagine, for me, this is a fantastic area in integration because now basically you need it everywhere you're looking pretty much. And it's the same. If I have S4, all the customers in Spain having S4 have the same challenge.
So what would be your advice to customers facing integration challenges right now?
Well, there's a lot to be said. But one thing is, I think gone are the days where you try to do it all yourself, build from scratch, try to leverage what is out there because it's cheaper that way.
Yeah. Reuse, like the adapters.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also because it's not just the effort to build, but it's the effort to maintain. If you will do it from scratch for ServiceNow, maybe you're good for 1 year. But ServiceNow is evolving as well. So they bring new versions. How are you going to deal with that? Let's say, because otherwise your project finishes, people move on, and then it breaks after a while. And you're like...
Most of these applications have quarterly, not necessarily quarterly, even in every 6 weeks or so, you have a release where you get a new API version with new features. And of course, deprecation also happens at the same rate. So you need to be really updated, looking at things every 6 weeks to see what changed and what went out. And if you still have things which are going to be deprecated soon, they need to be removed because otherwise you would have a big impact on your business processes. And working in integration for so long, you are always highlighted when things don't go your way, right? When things don't go right. And this adds to that challenge because now even your most stable flows can break if you're not updating them so frequently.
So now I'm starting to understand what I mean with continuous integration.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's not a project. That's clear, right?
It needs to keep
something
going.
That's ongoing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're talking about continuous, the CI/CD stuff. Interesting point. But we also see, because of what Swati mentioned, the deprecation and the keep moving, of testing and integration becomes a serious thing. To have regression tests, to make sure that basically your regression test runs ideally automatically every day on them. Why? Because one side can change. They could have had an upgrade and that becomes a key. Plus, if you do it that way, you're pretty sure that you can make changes. You will always find that, this test case failed. So it's becoming very important. Another thing.
A few podcasts ago, we had people from Tricentis over.
Exactly.
Is that something that you see in the real world, in the integration world as well? People running Tricentis do their regressions and integration tests, especially integration tests, I think.
Yeah, but for us, it's almost a must. We cannot we cannot do without these regression tests. For us building software anyway, for sure, we cannot do without, but for our customers as well. Because you don't have enough people with this diversity of integration to keep an eye on everything. You actually want it to run.
Yeah, especially if you have this kind of diverse landscape where you cannot have all the specialists at the same time available at the table.
Exactly.
Well, think about the connectors we are building, right? If I build a ServiceNow connector, I have to take care of ServiceNow changing. I have to take care of cloud integration changing every month. And you need to, so without that automation or telling you even that there's a change coming or something breaks, it's really different. So quality of software, you have to be more resilient. You have to build for that break, so to speak, because you know it will come. It's just a question. What about security threats? Of course, you find, you know, not too long ago what happened with all the security, a very important component of Java. What does that mean? You have very quickly to move, and that also has an impact.
It was a cut in a very important artery.
Yeah. So that's a constant. But one thing else emerges to mix all of this. You've done your integration right. The next question rises. Okay, it's running, but my business process touches 5 systems at the same time. Something goes wrong. Where did it go wrong? A customer calls, where's my order 1, 2, 3? In the past, you will jump to your SAP system, but now it's spread in 5. Where do you start looking? There are different teams for each one of those. Yeah. So that's a serious problem we see across, and that's why we started our analytics, which Swati could also talk about.
No, but that makes sense, especially if you talk about citizen developers. And at the start of this podcast, we were talking about the move from IT to the lines of business, right?
Right.
So the lines of business are now taking care of their own integrations.
Yeah.
Who's doing the monitoring?
That's interesting. So you want also to automate the monitoring as much as you can. First, follow it end to end. That's key. Mm-hmm. Automate and make it self-service for the business unit.
Yeah.
Because you don't, the ownership of integration becomes even complex. Who owns that integration interface? Let's say. Maybe Swati, if you want.
Yeah. So for a long period of time when we did integration, we were looking at the sole purpose was just to move data from one place to another without necessarily looking into the data of what it means, right? But because of these lines of business now being involved so closely, you do get questions like, oh, but I should be able to find my order across this business process, irrespective of where it is. And that's where we started with the whole journey of bringing in analytics or monitoring on top of integration to exactly answer those questions and start looking in the data, because it is a gold mine. You see, integration sits between 200 or whatever 1,000 applications in your landscape. All of those applications, when they talk to each other, go via integration. So if you could look in the data that is running through integration, you absolutely can plot the entire landscape of an organization without tapping into those individual applications in its own, So you have a very good base to do end-to-end monitoring without necessarily touching your target applications or source applications that much, because all this data in transit is going through the integration platform. Look at it. You would already determine a lot and solve a lot of the issues like finding your order or your shipment. So we even have customers now where the guy on the shop floor, in a forklift, looking at a dashboard in one of the technologies that we work with, and seeing, oh, my shipment, this, where is it? And he's easily able to, put that tracking number in that dashboard and find out exactly where it went wrong or why it wasn't printed. So for him, it's such a big ease, he doesn't have to call 20 people anymore. Only just putting that number in a dashboard gives him the entire chain of events which happened behind that shipment.
So you can see it was in a portal, it was an integration layer, it went here but failed there, and this was the error. I'm missing master data.
Way faster.
Yes,
yeah.
because otherwise you have to ask all of these teams to do the research.
But can you also then give it a push to solve the error or something? Is it only analytics to look at it, or can you also have some problem-solving skills into that.
Yeah, it's linked to that because basically you start to build a knowledge base with these errors. First of all, to help you to turn incident into problem. That's one. And secondly, create incident automatically where there you can say, hey, here's other incident related to it and this is the solution.
Yeah, that's how they solved it.
Yeah.
More,
Yeah.
hey, you're missing a name in the shipment and that's why it failed there because for that application it's required, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it did considerably, for one of our customers, it reduced the time to respond to requests by 90%. And they were able to reduce a lot of unnecessary calls that they were getting as an integration layer with this technology, because people now could see what went wrong and could fix it themselves. Or in extreme situations, if something was really an integration problem, only then they would reach out to that team. So when they looked at the number of incidents that they got after onboarding everybody into this tool or into this view, they saw 80% of their incidents were just not reported anymore because they were not related to integration from that perspective.
It will be good, I think, in relation to this sometime in the podcast to invite one of big customer in the Netherlands here. We have common customer who will talk about this topic to see how it helped them. And it's really
We're also already on top of the hour, so we can talk for 1 hour more, but it would be great to hear the customer or the business side of the experience of this integration.
Right.
Is that something you sell?
Yes, we have a series of products on it. We have it related to different vertical. We have it for specifically for Kafka, for let's say cloud integration, for process orchestration. We have it.
You mean the monitoring tools?
The monitoring tool.
Cool.
We have it for all of these vertical, but we have an end-to-end one as well that you put on top, so it follows through all of these applications.
I remember one of the projects that we created such a business activity monitoring layer ourselves on top of PI, because we had also 5 systems that were integrating, and we needed to have this finger pointing on where the error is much faster than before. And we wanted to have that SAP doing that for us, but I was not SAP right then, but it wasn't available.
Now we have it, and a lot of customers are using it, and that's why one of them could talk about it. The advantages are great for me. Incident is one, but creating insight is more important of what goes well as well. Gold. You know what I mean? That's gold. Plus, what I really love is building a historical trend to start drawing, because the application basically does hardware, process, and business view. Meaning you can start relating that actually it's the peak of orders which created these constraints on my CPU, for instance, if you know what I mean. So you can start seeing this correlation. And the next thing which is very interesting is the machine learning. This is a specialty, that we have in the company as well. What you then start doing a prediction at this rate. Look how my orders will grow. And plus, by the way, I'm getting an order coming in. This customer never orders 1 million worth of product. Today it did.
Yeah.
Should I just push it to the back end as normal, or should I park it first for someone to check? Which is something we seem sometimes to neglect. I have an interface which take data here, move it here, no matter what. Always move it here. But
because that means that you can then pay attention to the exceptions instead of to the regular flow.
Right. It opens so much more domain, right?
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing about the business technology platform as well, right? That cloud integration is basically in the same box as where you have artificial intelligence to live. So you could branch out to this in the same platform to something that does this anomaly detection, and then returns the response, and then the integration flow can pick it up further and do something specific with it based on whether it's anomaly or not.
Yeah.
Is that also the approach that you've taken with your solution?
This is the approach we've taken. For now, it's mostly to create insight and incidents. And right now, we also discovery of landscape. It's possible, basically, that you go in, you say, discover my landscape, and it uses your integration platform to draw, hey, these are the systems. So it puts your integration layer in the middle and shows you graphically the other systems around it, shows you with this system. Data goes there and comes back as well. And in the next version, we're also planning to not just that design time, but to overlay it with runtime data to say that, okay, become red because there are things going wrong here. Yeah. And combine that with that incident creation, it's also a key. Because ideally, look, what you want is, you don't want the customer to call you to find out that there's a problem, right? Ideally, you want to call them.
To solve it before they call you.
Ideally.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I meant when we opened, when I said, integration is not just linking applications anymore. It's way more than that. It can turn something into innovation opportunities or intelligence about your customers or about anomalies or whatsoever. It opens up a complete new box of opportunities in terms of innovations.
So overall, it's something that's why we're always excited with the work we do. It's really a passion. It's not just.
That shows.
Okay, that's good.
I like to talk to passionate people, so thank you very much.
For sure.
So we have a small party somewhere, June 11, right?
Yeah, and it would be really nice if
SAP
we
Inside Track.
We have this inside track where I think 100 like-minded folks will come to learn about SAP's technology. If you have these kind of things, if you have these kind of outstanding tech-driven innovations that you could talk about or even show, that would be really cool for such an event as well, to show the latest innovations based on machine learning, based on integration flows. Really cool. We have a couple of those type of speeches already lined up, also by international speakers. But you'd be really welcome to add your speech to the set.
Share your passion, but also to share your insight and maybe a demo, because that's not possible in a podcast. But that would be great if you.
Of course, yeah.
We will welcome it, and I think some of our customers will even like it very much to show, because what better ways?
Sure.
Then let the customer show their own demo.
Yeah, and if the customer is willing to talk about more in our small little cafe, then happy to welcome you again. Because it's again, as we opened, integration is the backbone of any kind of intelligence project that we do right now. All right. Any so you also mentioned some books. Maybe I can also share the links to the books in the show notes. Citadel will be SAP Inside Track will June 11. It's on a Saturday, with a bunch of developers and data liking people, the BI people. I'm not saying the other word.
We have internal terminology for those as well.
Okay.
Let's share that outside of the podcast. No, but that's it's also a fun day, but it's a knowledge day. It would be great if you can share your passion and your knowledge at that day as well. Any last things that you would like to share today? Swati.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke a lot about integration and how it is the backbone of modern enterprises. Traditionally, we've always been one of those teams, the integration teams, speaking about them specifically, who have been in the background and not given enough attention where it was really, they do play as the backbone. And I think now with the possibility and the visibility and adding the observability on top of integrations, we would be able to go further and not only be the cost centers in the organizations, but teams which add values and solve problems for the organization. So that transition, we're very passionate of making that for the customers of ours and the teams that we work with.
Solving problems, making life easier. Yeah, great. John?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, so we're passionate about integration, and what we focus on, at least our innovation team, is to create these accelerators, as we call, all focus on reducing the time to market for our customers. And there is a lot more that we have in our pipeline to keep doing it, and we value our cooperation with SAP. It's been very fruitful in many directions, and we're hoping to keep contributing to this universe in our way and for our way, that's integration, and we hope to keep doing it passionately in this way. And it's great to have audiences like this where we can share what we do every day.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. Thank you very much, Swati. Thank you, Jan. But also thank you, people online watching quite a long episode today, so almost 1 hour, and probably more to discuss in the future, even maybe on our event, but also in another episode of HANA Café. Rojo Consulting, you speed up the integration process with 70%. If you're reusing, that's already available. So you use the adapters that are available on the cloud integration platform to make life easier, to make problem solving before that the customer identifies the problem. That's really great.
Not only integration consultants, they're profit center heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
Powered by SAP technology.
100%.
Yeah, and I also like your analogy with the human body. So, of course, integration is something which is painful because you have a very diverse landscape. Integration should not be something that you see, because then you have a problem. So it should run somewhere under the water. It should run somewhere in the veins and stuff. And only when it comes out, then you have a problem. Let's prevent that it comes out. But using your tools, like to speed up the process, but also to monitor and to have the analytics, that really helps customers. Okay, thank you.
I heard in the Netherlands someone said integration is like, you're like the spider in the web. They said that a lot here.
Yeah.
But being a spider, the best way to monitor it is look at the spider from above up. And those are the observability tools that we need to create to be able to see that, because you cannot sense like a spider what's happening in the other angle there.
Okay, so we started in our cafe and we ended with Spider-Man. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for joining us today live in our HANA Café, but also if you listen to the podcast afterwards. If you have any questions, any comments, please reach out to us. Reach out to Swati, reach out to Jan and me, and hopefully we'll see you at SAP Inside Track in the Netherlands, or next time in our cafe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dankjewel voor het luisteren naar deze aflevering van HANA Café Nederland. Heb je feedback voor ons? Laat het dan zeker weten. Wil je ook een keer aanschuiven in het café? Stuur ons een berichtje en geef gelijk aan waar je het over wilt hebben. Tot de volgende keer!